The idea of a year of darkness that makes the world look like the end of the world is a scary one. Even though this is a very unlikely thing to happen, thinking about what would happen if it did is a good way to learn about how fragile and connected modern society is. In this video, we will look at the effects of a year of darkness on society, business, politics, and the human mind. Furthermore, we'll explore the intricate domino effect it would trigger on the economy and political landscape, raising essential questions about our resilience and adaptability in the face of unprecedented challenges. But before we start, make sure to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon for regular updates. Let's get started. The world on the edge. A year of darkness would tear society apart and throw it into chaos and disorder. Light and electricity are very important to people's daily lives, conversations, and even mental health. When the lights went out all of a sudden, there would be general panic and fear, which would lead to a rise in crime and social unrest. If there was no light, it would be hard to move around, making transportation and operations nearly impossible. This would make it harder for people to get to work and school, and it would also make it harder for people to get access to the resources they need. Also, a lack of light would mess up sleep habits, which would leave people tired, irritable, and with less brain power. It would also hurt mental health, leading people to feel anxious, depressed, and hopeless, which would put a strain on healthcare systems. Psychological support and therapy services would be in high demand, but it would be hard to get them because the darkness would make it hard to get around. Crisis in the economy. If there was no light for a year, it would be a disaster for the economy. Businesses and industries that depend a lot on electricity, like manufacturing, transportation, and technology, would stop working. The loss of output would lead to a lot of people losing their jobs, unemployment rates going through the roof, and more people living in poverty. Also, supply lines would break down, which would lead to a severe lack of goods and basic necessities. Small companies and local economies would be hit hard because they don't have the means or strength to handle a long-term crisis. The world economy would also go into a downward spiral, with international trade coming to a halt and financial markets falling apart. The energy industry would be one of the hardest hit, which would stop the making and distribution of electricity. This would not only stop economic activity, but it would also hurt hospitals and other important assets, making it harder for them to work well. Governments and international groups would have a hard time helping and supporting the affected areas because of problems with logistics and a lack of funding. Chaos in politics. In the wake of something so terrible, it would be hard for the government to maintain order and security. Governments would be under a lot of pressure to deal with the problem, but they wouldn't be able to do so very well because of communication networks and infrastructure would be broken. Lack of real-time knowledge and the ability to talk to faraway places would make it hard to coordinate and make decisions. As people want answers, solutions, and comfort, leadership will be put to the test. But in the middle of chaos and desperation, there is a chance that some people or groups will take advantage of the situation for their own gain, which could lead to civil unrest and conflicts. Law and order could even break down in some areas, leaving people to take care of themselves. Lack of food and water. Without light for a year, agricultural processes would fall apart, which would be terrible for food production. Without sunshine, it would be hard for plants to grow. So many crops would fail, and there would be a severe lack of food. Without refrigerators and other ways to keep food fresh, food would go bad and be wasted, making the situation even worse. Livestock, which needs a lot of sunlight for food and warmth, would have a hard time, which would lead to a lot less meat and milk being made. If there wasn't enough food and nutrition, there would be a lot of malnutrition and starvation, especially among vulnerable groups like children and the elderly. If water pumps and water purification systems needed energy, it would be harder to get clean water. This would make it more likely that people would get sick from waterborne diseases and make the humanitarian crisis even worse. Competition for limited water supplies could also lead to fights between communities or even between countries. A step backward in technology. In a year of darkness, a lot of new technologies would be useless. The internet and communication networks would stop working, cutting off global links and making it almost impossible to get information and knowledge. This setback would hurt scientific study, technological development, and medical progress for years to come. Losing access to information and education would hurt future generations in the long run because it would make it harder for them to learn important skills and knowledge. The digital divide would get even bigger, making it harder for people in poor communities to access knowledge and opportunities. Effects on the environment. The darkness would change the world in big ways. Without electricity and lights, many man-made sources of pollution would stop, giving the environment a brief break. In some places, the air quality might get better, giving us a glimpse of what a cleaner, less dirty world might look like. But a sudden stop to manufacturing and shipping would bring its own set of problems. For example, if nuclear power plants and other dangerous sites aren't kept up, it could pose big risks to the environment and safety. Toxic materials and waste could be kept or left in the wrong way, putting ecosystems and human health in greater danger. Also, as people try to get used to living in the dark, they might use more firewood and other natural resources to stay alive, which could lead to the loss of forests and ecosystems. Wildlife would have trouble in their natural environments because migration patterns would be messed up and the number of animals might go down. Resilience and building a community. Even though there was a lot of destruction, there would be pockets of strength and community growth. The human past has shown us that when people are in trouble, they often help each other out. Communities would find ways to share resources, information, and skills in order to stay alive and rebuild. If there wasn't a lot of infrastructure and technology to back it up, old knowledge and practices would come back. People would get used to the darkness by coming up with new ways to get around, talk to each other, and make energy. This could open the way for new practices and technologies that are better for the environment. Local farming and farmland would see a comeback, and people would grow their own food in small-scale, sustainable ways. To make up for the lack of modern amenities, people would use things like rainwater collection, sun ovens, and passive cooling. Even though a year of darkness is a terrible and unusual thing to happen, thinking about how it might affect society, the economy, politics, and the environment shows the complex web of relationships that holds modern civilization together. It shows how dangerous nature and man-made disasters can be, and how important it is to have sustainable practices, strong infrastructure, and global cooperation. As we move through a world that is always changing, knowing the weaknesses and strengths of our society can help us build a more stable and safe future. The idea of a year without light is a stark warning that we need to build a more sustainable, connected, and caring world where people can help each other in terms of trouble and work together to solve the problems that lie ahead. That's it for today. What are your thoughts about this issue? Let us know in the comment section. Please like and share our videos. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon for regular updates.